Hey everybody, welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I'm your host, Sandman Shane Sabunia, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff.
Hello.
And Jeff, we haven't been on the air for a couple of weeks, so we actually have not been on the air since Revolution went on the air.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I popped in a little bit. You had some computer issues last week, and I popped on for a couple minutes just to run through some things. But there was some stuff I wanted to get your take on.
what's
Um,
that?
for starters, MJF's new group.
If I'm not mistaken, it's exactly the same group you suggested like 6 months ago.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Because I remember that's what I wanted to talk about is because I remember saying that if there was going to be a new group that Tully's doing his horseman thing, to have MJF be the leader. And that's what we got.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm pretty sure you specifically said to have um, I can't remember their name anymore, but you know,
FTR.
FTR. I always want to say WTR for some reason, but FTR as his tag team, and to have Sean Spears as his kind of like Tully Blanchard.
Yeah, his mid card
Yeah,
Barry Windham type guy,
yeah, and that's exactly what happened, along with the enforcer, of course, still being Wardlow. So
which is just badass to begin with.
yeah, I mean it's. I'm still, you know that I still go like really, really cold, and then sometimes lukewarm on Sean Spears. So,
Yeah, and well,
uh,
that's what I said last week too, is I know that Shane's not gonna like this, but it
well,
is,
I mean, I'm willing to give it a chance because there have been times when I have enjoyed Sean Spears in AEW, but it's just been few and far between.
well,
You know,
his,
you know, and him not being and him being, on there, and maybe being a more consistent presence, but then also being surrounded by greatness can do nothing but help him. So
well, and to have him not be that comedy guy. He was a comedy guy for pretty much his entire AEW run up till now.
yeah, it was a lot of jokes when he smashed Cody in the face with a chair.
Well, okay, after that, I mean, Jesus Christ, he wore underwear with Tully's face on it.
I don't remember that.
And
I
him
must have
and
blocked it out.
yeah, as you rightfully should have. Um, and the other thing, and I like the fact that AEW did this too, is because what they did is they um, kind of started connecting dots with Sean Spears and yeah, I remember the beginning of the quarantine, Sean Spears and MJF were gambling on the sidelines or in the crowd and all that stuff, and they kind of brought a lot of that back.
No, I
Um,
remember that. Yeah.
to make it seem like this has been something in the works for a very long time.
Yeah, that was actually a really nice touch because honestly, like I was like when I saw them, I was like, huh, Sean Spears is still managed by Tully Blanchard because it sure hasn't seemed like it ever since FTR showed up.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he's barely been an afterthought, and maybe he's been on Dark. Like we said. I mean, if you're on Dark, you're not on Dynamite, and I don't have extra 2 hours to watch on Dynamite, and watch Dark, and I definitely don't have an extra 2 hours on top of that to watch Dark Elevation. So
Right.
they're putting to me. I mean, I think they're I don't like what they're doing as far as programming because I just think they're doing the same thing WWE does, which is just putting way too much content out there. You know.
Way too much new defined content. Like if you want to follow the stories and everything, you've got to search all over God's green earth to find them. It's not just told on Dynamite, which I mean is kind of a cool idea, but also not really something I have time for.
No, no, me neither. And if you're gonna do that, you really need to do it on three different other shows and have two of those shows be 2 hours long.
Right.
You know, I don't
I
get
didn't
it.
realize Dark was that long. I thought it was
Well,
just an hour-long show.
if you I think that's how it started out, but like if you look like at the results on the bottom of the screen, like it shows like dark match after dark match after dark match, and it's like, and I would like read those scrolling. I'm like, well, fucking, how long is this show? And then I looked at, and then I looked, and there was like some that are like 2 hours and 10 minutes. Like Dark Elevation was like 2 hours and 2 minutes.
Wow.
It's just crazy.
I didn't realize that those shows were that long.
Well,
That's
I mean,
insane.
I'm sure you've seen where they scroll the results at the bottom of
I
Dynamite,
don't
right?
pay attention to that.
Okay, so that's where I started thinking, well, they must have really expanded the breadth of that show because you can't do like 12 matches in an hour, you know?
Well, you can in WWE Attitude Era.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, yeah, you can, but yeah, so yeah, I mean, I like I like his new group. I like the name of the group. I did not like necessarily his promo this week, just because I thought he was way too much yelling. It's not what I expect from MJF from what we've seen, for him to be basically yelling at the camera. You know.
Yeah, that did kind of come across as a little much. I agree. But it kind of fit because he's always been a heel. Um, and now he has to out heel his older heel. I kind of like the fact that it became personal between him and Jericho.
Hmm.
It makes a little bit more sense because it's now a personal thing. So I enjoyed that aspect of it, but you're right, he did yell a lot more than normal.
I do really enjoy the long-term storytelling of this. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I mean, I mean, I realized I was complaining about all the drama, the melodrama they showed every single week with the inner circle, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, like you said, setting it up with Sean Spears back when the quarantine first started.
right,
Um, or him coming out shortly after. I can't remember which pay-per-view it was, but he said, I'm going to need to have a stable behind my back.
right.
And he actually talked about and he said something like, either I need to join a stable or I need to form my own. And when he said that, you can't really see the character of MGF taking a backseat to anybody, at least not for very long.
Right.
So it never really did work for me, intellectually, that he was part of the inner circle. It never really felt real. And I think that probably feel and I think probably any long-term wrestling fan would have felt that way too. Like, MGF and Wardlow did never really feel like members of the inner circle ever.
No, they didn't.
Um, but it probably worked for you know young kids or something.
It
You know.
probably worked for people that didn't know MJF.
Yeah, that
I
too.
mean, that the only thing they knew about MJF was his AEW run, because I mean, he started it in his run with basically being Cody's underling, and then he went off on his own for a little bit, but it wasn't long before So if you only know MJF from AEW, then it made sense. But if you knew him from anywhere else, like his MLW run, um,
Hmm.
then no, you're right. That didn't make any sense at all because he was the leader of his own stable in MLW.
Yeah, he was. And speaking of which, how much cooler would it be if it was Alex Hammerstone in that stable instead of
Wardlow.
Sean Spears? Instead of Sean Spears.
Yeah, yeah. I just want Alex Hammerstone on my TV.
Yeah, I mean, how much cooler would it be if Alex Hammerstone was pretty much any wrestler on the planet?
Right, exactly. But we also talked, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this on the air too. But there was another um, debut that got his in-ring debut in, oh man, Ethan Page.
Hmm.
I mean, we talked a little bit about it on his Revolution debut, but then he went out and just dismantled a guy a couple weeks ago. Looked like the star he should be. The problem is that the audio really messed up during that time, and we got to listen to a basketball game while he was doing his promo and everything. But I'm looking forward to him doing things in the future. A little sad he wasn't on this last week, but
Yeah, I mean, I still, I think he's a talented guy, but I don't, see him the same vein that you do. I think that he would really benefit from having somebody around him. You know.
and last week when when I did my little blurb, I brought up the fact that I would like to see him in the AJ Styles role when Christian was originally with TNA.
Yeah, we have talked about that too. That I think he and Cage together in a stable would work well together. Actually, I told my wife, after I watched Revolution, I was like, there's two people that debuted last night or that debuted on Revolution, and their names rhyme with each other.
Right.
She's like, who? And I said, Ethan Page and Christian Cage.
I do like that they brought back, and this is a good thing with their working relationship with Impact, is that they were able to bring back the entire Christian Cage. His music, the instant classic, basically his entire persona from his TNA run. So I really enjoy that part too.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I said is that is if even if I hadn't known, even if you hadn't already told me before I watched Revolution that Christian Cage had debuted, when I heard that music and saw that countdown, I would have known immediately who it
Yep,
was.
exactly. Yeah, he was. I love that. That's a nice touch, and that's only something they can do because of their working relationship. And the
Yeah.
same thing with Ethan Page. I mean, Ethan Page has his TNA music and was able to keep the all ego gimmick.
Oh, I didn't see that it was. I didn't know it was the same music that he had in
It was
Impact.
his music before he joined Josh Alexander as the North.
Right. Well, before he did that in Impact, they've been together for years as a team.
Right,
But
but
I know what you mean though. Yeah, I mean it's he's a nice addition for sure. It has been interesting to see how they use him or where he goes next. Like you said, he wasn't even on this week's show. Again, maybe he was on Dark, but we're not going to know about
yeah,
that. So,
exactly. The one thing, the nice thing about Christian Cage too spoke for the first time this week,
hmm
and I loved his promo. Absolutely loved it. Literally said, "I got my sights set on you. I'm not here to take anybody's spot except Kenny's spot, but I know I got to prove myself before I get that shot."
yeah, that was really great because it kind of felt like after the previous week's Dynamite that they were setting up an immediate clash between Omega and
Christian,
Christian, and now um, and now he made it clear he's gonna work his way up to that spot,
right?
which was cool. I do wish they'd move on from the Moxley Omega stuff though.
Yeah.
To me, this should have transitioned into either a battle between Moxley and um fuck. Why can't I never remember people's names? Um, God, help me out here, Jeff.
I, the only guy I can think of that I'd like to see him in a program with is Pac,
No, no, Moxley's partner. What's his name?
Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, Moxley and Kingston, in a long-term, tag battle against the Good Brothers or something, or either that or Kingston being transitioned into being, the contender for Omega. I just really don't like that Omega and Moxley are keeping up when they've already had a goddamn exploding barbed wire match against each other.
Well, with
You know,
Twizzlers or what are those things called? Sparklers, when it should have exploded.
they did a nice job covering for that, though. They really
Well,
did.
yeah, Eddie and their promo, uh, Eddie and John's promo explained it. The fact that Don Callis had to come out later and explain it again was a little too much. That was a little overkill.
No, I liked I did like that Callis said, we were not going to let Moxley have the death that he deserved or whatever. You know,
Being a martyr, yeah, I guess that
yeah.
did. Yeah, I mean they did explain it well, but yeah, yeah,
Overall though, I thought this week's episode of Dynamite um was a wet fart.
I loved the main event. For
Yeah, the main event was great, but I mean, there wasn't really enough. If we weren't doing the show, I don't know if that I would have kept watching the show to get to the main event. It was just that to me, it was that boring and mediocre.
I mean the matches weren't that great. I don't. The whole Bucks, Good Brothers, Kenny Omega thing is starting to turn into like the inner circle drama where I
hmm
don't want to see it every week on my TV. Um, and there were the two big promos with Christian and then the one with oh, and then Brian Cage. What was his deal?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I want to turn babyface. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that, unless he's setting up a swerve of some kind.
Yeah, it didn't make any. I mean, I get it. He's like, okay, yeah, you're the icon. I understand now, but it was just it seemed out of place.
Yeah, apparently getting an elbow driven through his chest through a couple of floors of a building changed his outlook on life.
Yeah, maybe. I guess. I guess. But yeah, that main event was amazing. Like, I never expected that kind of brutality out of two women.
No, that was pretty amazing. It really was. And then that finish through the table and stuff was just and the yeah, and I did and I even if I would have expected it from two women, I never would have expected Britt Baker to take those two thumbtack shots.
Oh yeah, to take the thumbtack. I mean, to blade the way that she did too. Jesus, I don't. I can't remember the last time I saw that much blood.
Mad respect for Britt Baker after that
Yeah,
match.
yeah, yep. I agree. That was an insane match. It was fun to watch. It was kind of nice having another lights out match. I like that, that's kind of their Hell in a Cell. Um, so hopefully this whole thing between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker is over because that was like Kota Ibushi Naito um, level of hurting people.
Yeah, to me this was and I know I'm going back a long time here, but to me this was Mick Foley putting over Randy Orton in 2004.
Yep.
That was this kind of a match where, we knew talent, we knew Orton was talented before, we knew he could talk. We did not know he could put on a spectacular performance and show his toughness in this kind of environment. And that's exactly what Thunder Rosa did for Britt Baker in this
Hmm.
match to me.
Yep. I mean, Britt came out of Britt was already a great heel, and she, was good on the mic and everything, but this was that star-making performance that put her to a whole new level.
Yeah, and this was also the match where and this to me where is if the plan is for Baker to take the title from Sheeta, this match, to me was a way of giving her the thumbs up for it or the green light to get it.
Well, and to make it believable.
Yeah,
That's the best part is this made it believable because Sheeta broke her nose. What didn't Sheeta beat her another time too?
I believe. Yeah, I think Baker did make her tap out in a tag match, but I think Sheeta's beaten her twice, in singles matches.
So yeah, I mean this was a good way. I mean this is showing the toughness that she needed to become the champion.
Yep.
And what's the deal with Darby Allin? He's going to have an open challenge now. I mean, shouldn't the TNT title have always been an open challenge?
It should have been. And was this a one-off thing where where it was an open challenge just to the Dark Order, or is this going to be an ongoing open challenge?
He said that he wanted to do he wanted to defend it more because what his thing was is he's only defended it 4 times since he won it in what, October?
Oh, that's silly.
And so he wanted to defend it more. And he said he's gonna bring back the weekly open challenge, but the first one is gonna go to, the Dark Order.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
I'm actually looking forward to that. I Jonathan Silver has really grown on me as a performer over the last year.
Yeah, I just hate that he's called Johnny Hungy. That just
That's a
hurts
BTE
my head.
thing.
Yeah, but it hurts my head.
I know, mine too. And I ended up watching BTE after Adam Page or Kate Page came out on the lawnmower, and BTE's was talking about the lawnmower thing, so I decided to watch it, and it's just still more ridiculousness. I I, I don't know. It's all a bunch of backstage promo skits is basically all BTE has become now.
Perfect. I really but yeah, I do think John Silver is amazingly talented. So that's pretty cool. He's getting that first shot.
And it's nice that you know, he's not a big guy. He's not the kind of guy that you would expect anything from um, if all we had was WWE. So the fact that AEW is here and he's getting a shot to shine and show how good he can be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy about that, and I think he's perfect. He's a perfect size for a TV title division at least.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so I mean, I don't expect him to win the title here, but I can so easily see him being the champion in that division at some point. I do think this open challenge should go for a while before he drops it to somebody, and and that somebody is probably going to end up being Sky,
Yeah, especially after the match they had.
right?
That was just that's what the TV title matches should be like.
Yeah, that was a really good match. I really enjoyed that, and Sky's reaction at the end of it to losing was just more cementation of his his attitude change um and his now he's a heel.
Yeah.
So
Which is, one thing that I said he needed to do. If he was ever going to be a star, he needed to break away from SCU and he needed to turn heel. So I'm glad that, that's happening because I think he'll finally stop being, what did you used to call him? Babyface number 9 or something like that.
something like that. Yeah.
It was just there was nothing to him. He was just another wrestler. But now with his new attitude and um, I really see good things for him coming too.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of guys that seem to be turning heel, the QT Marshall thing is just kind of wah wah to me.
Well, because we never really established QT Marshall as anything that we need to care about.
Exactly. That's exactly why.
I
And again, they might have done it more on Dark because I think that he and Dustin had a lot of tag team matches on Dark, but that's not the same thing as establishing on your flagship show on national television.
Yeah, it just him turning heel and the slow burn heel turn.
Yeah.
Just it I don't care. I really don't care because outside of a couple of matches that he had with Cody where I thought he was, talented and impressive and enjoyed what he was doing, then all of a sudden he starts in this tag team and then he's got um uh Allie in love with him for no apparent reason at all. And then she just turns on him and it was to use his credit card. I don't care about QT Marshall. I just don't. They have not done a good enough job of making me care about him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and and maybe he'll turn heel and he'll be an amazing promo, and we'll get behind him and enjoy him. But right now, there's nothing to care about.
No, no, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you that I felt like Dynamite was kind of a letdown, except for, I enjoyed Christian's promo. I enjoyed Darby, opening up the open challenge and that last match. But you're right. This was just another episode that I could have went without watching.
Yeah, I mean, and I got to say that it started out on a sour note for me when I watched Cody make one of the most exciting wrestlers in the world into a boring drip
Huh?
in that that opening match with Penta versus
Oh, yeah,
Cody.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, Cody just made that such a, and Cody is a great in-ring storyteller at times, but there's also times where he just drags down the action, and you can't do that against somebody like Penta.
No,
And to me, when you can make Penta, I'm just gonna call him Pentagon Dark because that's how I really know him as, not this whole like Penta El Ciero Mieto, whatever the fuck they call him. The Pentagon Dark that that we know and love from Lucha Underground or even from Impact would not have had this kind of a match against anybody.
no.
So, I mean, I just think that having trying to wrestle Cody's match really brought down the quality of that match and really if this was somebody's first exposure to Penta in a big time singles match, really was a bad idea.
Well, and it's another complaint that I have about AEW. I mean, all of a sudden we're having this big match between these two when this should have been built towards a pay-per-view.
Yeah, or at least should have been built for more than just a week or two.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I mean, okay, maybe their story is going to continue, but it was it. That's one of my bigger complaints about AEW is their short-term booking. They don't. It's way too short. Like they've got some long-term storytelling that's going on that is interesting when you finally get to the payoff, it makes sense. but then their short-term stuff is just there never should have been a match between these two a week after.
Right. I agree. They should have built it out, and they did not for whatever reason.
Right. And maybe it's because he's going to be taking time off for paternity leave. I mean, I don't know how far along Brandy is, but
Um, Brandy has said on Twitter that the idea of him taking time off for maternity leave is laughable.
oh,
So I don't know that he's actually going to do that.
probably just because he's, one of the faces of the company, the head, an EVP and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably why.
And I mean, the whole stuff with Kenny and the Bucks is just it's getting to a point where I just want it to be done. I want this whole. Oh, another thing too. And the announcers didn't bring this up, but remember how, Good Brothers always had those tag title belts?
Yeah,
They lost them to FinJuice at their latest pay-per-view, and there was no
right.
mention of it on AEW.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they'd mentioned that or not. I did. I was like, I saw that and I was like, did they say anything about that? But they did not.
I
So
don't remember if they did, I missed it.
okay,
But you would have thought they would have at least, called out the fact that they lost their titles because their titles were a big prop that they were using on AEW TV forever for the, last few months.
right. And yeah, and I don't, I was confused about Finjuice beating them for those titles too because, um, like if you watch the New Japan Cup, Kevin Kelly did mention that, that recently that Finley and Juice had won the tag titles from, um, the Good Brothers, but was it like one of those shows that was tape delayed because it didn't air like last Saturday on not like yesterday, but the Saturday before on, Impact Plus, and the New Japan Cup was going on at the same time, so there's no way they could have gotten quarantined in time, to have done that. I was, and that has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with what you're saying. I'm just saying it's kind of confusing that, that it was like they won the titles during the New Japan Cup when both guys were in Japan. So
Yeah, that is kind of weird because they did have their match was last Saturday when they won the titles.
when they at least that's when it aired. That's why I was wondering if it was on if they had like recorded that show previously or something.
They would have had to
Yeah, that's what
because
I thought.
if they're in the New Japan Cup, they're not, they're over in Japan unless maybe they were filming some of it from the States.
Film
Is that a
what
possibility?
part of the New Japan Cup? No,
It's all in Japan, huh?
yeah, it's all in Japan. So,
Because I was gonna say if they were filming, some of the guys in the States, then that would have made sense. And holy crap, Jay White.
you watched that
Oh
match?
my God, he is the
Okay.
king of counters.
Yes.
He's now countered the Rainmaker. He's countered um, the One-Winged Angel. He's countered now Tanahashi's move. He counters literally everybody's finishing moves.
Well, if you remember the last time he faced Tana, he counted when he won the title from him. He countered the Aces High into the Switchblade,
Yep.
into the Blade Runner. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
He is the king of counters. And that was another just great match, just another great performance. And you know,
That to me is the second best match of the New Japan Cup, so far what I've seen. The best match was the latest 5-star match by good old Dave, which was, another battle between Will Ospreay and ZSJ, Zack Sabre Jr.
okay, I'll have to watch that one. I haven't seen that one yet.
Did you notice how I changed it to be
Yeah, I
able
know.
to say ZSJ for you?
Yeah, I know. I caught that. Yeah. Trust me, my skin crawled.
My work here is done though. Yeah. That was a fantastic battle between those two too. Like just great storytelling and leg work and that kind of stuff. So
And you'd mentioned
and
something too.
shoulder work. Sorry, go ahead.
You'd mentioned something, and I can't talk too much about it. I wanted to, I did watch that Jay White match, and the guy amazes me. He really just amazes me. But you'd mentioned something about NXT and Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly that I didn't catch when I was watching it. You said that it looked like they were working up towards a cinematic match.
That's my take on it because when you watch NXT, they're talking about how Kyle is banned from the building um
Injury.
because of his injury, and that way he doesn't like re-aggravate his injury, or doesn't go to get his doctor's orders and keep attacking Cole. And then there was that whole thing going on where where Kyle like ran uh Cole off the road and got arrested. And it just feels to me like they're building towards something like they did between um, Gargano and Ciampa, or Gargano and was it Gargano and Ciampa?
Yeah, their first
But
match was unsanctioned because Ciampa wasn't a member of the company,
no,
supposedly.
last year before WrestleMania they had another one though. So
Oh,
it feels to me like they're building towards something like that, where it's going to be a match that's in a like undisclosed location, and they're like battling it out inside like an empty arena.
mm.
That's just like the take I got on it, especially when you know Regal said that he had that he's gonna come up with some way for the two of them to settle this.
And we never did get to talk about the groundbreaking uh, things that he talked, because you weren't here last week, but remember he had those two groundbreaking um, announcements he was going to make, and
Yes,
neither
I do.
one of them were groundbreaking. I how why we had it been something that was never seen before, then I would have said groundbreaking. But first of all, a two-night NXT. So now what they're just doing what Wrestle Kingdom and WrestleMania have done for the last couple of years.
Yep.
And then
And what Impact has done for a couple of years too.
with the
Where they
two-night
will
shows.
well they'll have like their first night on Twitch and the next night
Oh
is
yeah,
on their
yeah, yeah.
Impact Plus.
Yep, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah, so that was not groundbreaking, and the least groundbreaking one, and probably the biggest mistake they could have made was announcing women's tag titles, giving them to Kai and Gonzalez, only to have Kai and Gonzalez lose them an hour later.
Well, I don't have a problem with them losing an hour later. And I know you do, and I just want to. Can you expand on why that's a problem for you?
It just it diminishes. Well, first of all, Kai and Gonzalez, it diminishes them. It's transitional champions are never a good idea because it makes them look silly. Like even the Miz, he held the belt for a week. Um,
Oh, don't get me started on that bullshit from the fucking world title on Bobby Lashley. It's ridiculous.
it's just, but it
Sorry.
makes it
Go ahead.
makes it makes those people look weaker. And then when you've got, um, they're cutting their promo about how they're going to hold these belts for a long, long time and reshape the division, make it their own, and all this stuff. And then they lose it an hour later, and then they're crying and back, and they're like, "But we can always say we were the first ever champions." It was like, no, you really can't. You held it for an hour, and you didn't really even win them. You were given them. Uh, I just think that if that was the route they were going to go, that he should have announced that there would be a rematch of, the latest takeover, Dusty Cup finals to see who would be the first ever champions.
I just think well, I think that whole scenario was unnecessary in the first place. I thought it was really a poor setup to it. I mean, I don't understand why they didn't just say we're going to have a Dusty Cup for the women, and the winners of that match will be the first ever women's tag team champions.
Yeah, they had to go.
I didn't understand the convoluted way they did that, where they had to have um, Adam Adam Pierce come out and quote unquote cost them the match against the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions in order to set up that announcement of the women's tag team champions. They should have just had the belts ready to go for whoever won the Dusty Cup, because that storyline's not going to go anyplace.
No.
It's not like they're going to have the general manager of NXT feud with the general manager or whatever his role is on SmackDown. You know, that's not going to be something that they do. So I just don't understand. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll expand out, but they certainly haven't done anything, in the last couple of weeks to build towards that.
No,
So I don't understand why they went through that whole convoluted way of doing it.
it was just a cluster, just an absolute cluster.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of see where you're coming from with that. I mean, I do think that what they did will expand what they're doing for that 2 night show. How they handle it going forward is going to be, we'll have to see. But I think it's very clear that Gonzalez is going to be the next women's champion in NXT.
Right.
So that's what they've been building towards. She's the one person who's been able to pin Io Shirai since Io Shirai won the championship. She pinned her in that women's War Games match. You
Well,
know,
and then they were talking about she was basically talking about moving on, and Dakota Kai had to talk her back into tag team matches.
yeah.
It just, I don't know. I don't like that whole storyline. I just don't. And like you said, it was a convoluted way to do it. I There's no point in slapping titles on somebody only to have them lose it an hour later. Um, they did the same thing in when CM Punk left uh,
Yeah, with Rey Mysterio.
with Rey
Yeah.
Mysterio. It was what was the point of having Rey? It just diminishes them. It makes them look weak.
I don't think it made either one. I do not agree with that. I don't think it makes them look weak at all. I mean, Ray had already had a match winning the championship when Cena when he had to wrestle Cena for the title, and and the women, I don't see how it makes them look weak just because they said they're going to be great long champions and they lost. It happens to people,
I don't
so.
know. I've never been a fan of transitional champions. It just it
I mean, I don't think, I mean, would you feel this way if they had gotten the titles at the Dusty Classic and then lost them in their first defense?
no.
No.
I don't think I would because at least they would have had the championships for a little while.
Right. So it was really
And
the
they
setup. It's really the setup of it that you're against, not the fact that they lost the titles.
and they would have physically won the titles. It
Right.
wouldn't have been some just handed to them. It wouldn't have been like a money in the bank briefcase type of thing. I think those are the things that weaken the belts for me when they're won after, just awarded to somebody like even the big gold belt. I remember in 2004 or whatever when Eric Bischoff just awarded it to Triple H.
Right.
To me, that just diminished. Now Triple H went on and held it for 3 years, but I've never been a fan of that. I've never been a fan of just here, you're the new champion. You don't have to earn it. Here you go.
Yeah, that was really lame.
And that's
That.
why I've never liked the Money in the Bank briefcase either. I mean, I've never liked it. I know CM Punk, it kind of catapulted his career. It definitely did for Edge, but I've never liked that whole. The few times where I've actually enjoyed the cash-ins were when they turned into physical matches, like when Seth Rollins did it against Brock and Roman Reigns. Made
Or
that
Rob Van Dam did against John
John
Cena.
Cena. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, to me, it just diminishes the title.
I don't think it diminishes the title. I think but I do think that the setup of it, is much better when it's a heel holding it than a face. You know,
True.
when it because when a face uses that, you know, anytime tactic the way that Edge did, or originally to start it with, um, and kind of set the course, set the trajectory of that going forward. Um, I think it's weird when a babyface does the same thing. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a heel that does it because they're slimy and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I do see where you're coming from with it. But I and I do think it's a concept that they've done for. I feel like they kind of do it now because they've done it for so long. Whereas really it's something that should go by the wayside now.
Well, they're hitting close to what, 20 years of it?
Yeah, they are.
So it's become a staple. But it's just one of those things I've never. If you want to make a guy a champion, make the guy a champion. Have him earn it.
Just
Have him
just because
earn it.
Just because it's a staple does not mean it's something that should keep continuing forever.
Well, the
You
In
know.
Your House shows went away. You know, they've done things before where it's just gone away. So I don't.
I really, I really did like, I really do like what they're doing with Karrion Kross and Finn
Finn.
Balor.
Yep.
Um, I like the whole, the whole setup on that show where it was, Scarlett was talking about how, it's in her vision, they're draped in gold. They're both draped in gold coming into the match. And so you kind of think, oh, they're going to go the usual WWE storyline route of the two top challengers or the champion and the top challenger of the tag team champions going in, and then and they have all this animosity towards each other, and they completely flipped it on its head,
Yeah.
you know. And then I also like, and I'm really hoping that we're getting this at the stand and deliver event, a battle between um, Tommaso Ciampa and Walter for the WWE or sorry, the NXT UK Championship would just be an astounding.
I didn't realize that Walters had that for 720 days.
Yeah, he's had it forever.
And I mean, Pete Dunne had it for 650 or something like that, didn't he?
452, I believe, is the number for
I thought
for.
Pete had it for over 2 years.
I thought they said it was 450 something. Let me. I can look it up real quick. Um,
But when you think about it, the NXT UK title has been around for like, what, 6 years now? And it's only been held by three people?
yeah, it's crazy, huh?
That's incredible. That's the way titles should be.
Yeah, Tyler Bate held it for 314 days. Um, Walters held it for 716 plus, and Pete Dunne held it for 685. No, yeah, 685.
Yeah, because I knew he had it just over 2 years when he lost it to Walter.
Yeah, they said the number. They must have said the number wrong um, on NXT then.
And I remember saying that I thought Jordan Devlin was still the cruiserweight champion. We got that proven right because he's coming back to claim his rightful place.
Oh, sorry, Tyler Bates only held it for 125 days, but still, we're talking about it was established on. Why doesn't it have the date here? January 15th, 2017. So it's been around for just
Four
over
years.
4 years now, and it's been held by three people.
That's amazing. I mean, when you look at it, how many different people have held the TNT title, and that's only been
Right,
around for what, 6 months?
right.
Same three people have held that in 6 months. I mean, the AEW title has changed hands now three times in 2 years.
Yeah,
God
that's
only,
crazy.
and who knows how many times the um, WWE titles change hands in the last 6 months. Probably like six or seven at this point. So
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, I think if you're, I just think I would
but
like to
that's
see
go
the
ahead.
championships go back to what they were, not being a prop, but being something that people are proud of and they work towards winning. And then when they win it, they hold it for, I'm not saying forever. Like, I don't need a Bob Backlund, or not Bob Backlund. It was a dude before him that held it for like 8 years. Or even Hogan for 4 years. I'm not saying that, but have a good run with it. Win it, work, make it your life's goal to win it, and make it something important, and then hold it and defend it, and hold on to that belt for a year, 2 years, somewhere around there. I think about 2 years is a good title run, and I think you've got plenty of challengers where if you don't burn them out on a weekly show or even a monthly pay-per-view, you can stretch out these title reigns and make them feel like something again.
Yeah, yeah. They and all, the other thing with that is I like Kenny has held the title now for just over 3 months now, right?
Right.
But he also has not really defended it cleanly yet either. So I really, I don't think a heel should always have to win by cheating. You know, I think that diminishes the title more than somebody losing it after hitting it for an hour.
Well, and I also hated that about WWE when they have the heel champions, all of a sudden they're cowards.
Hmm.
They made Seth Rollins one of the biggest cowards on the planet when he held that title when he was part of the Authority. I've never liked that about that style of booking, and they're doing it now with Kenny, where he's kind of, I mean, he's don't get me wrong, he's still the best wrestler on the planet, but and it's a treat to watch him every week, but they're kind of doing that with him now too, and making him he's the heel champion, so he's kind of a coward.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, that I wasn't trying to just single out one company. I'm just saying that I hate that in general when they do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. I agree fully with that. I think the last time I saw a heel champion look strong, might have been CM Punk.
Yeah, and even then he had running had Paul Heyman and the Shield running interference for him.
Yeah, that's good. That's true. I mean, in the States, when was the last time I mean, in Japan it's different because Evil looks strong, but he also kind of had Dick Togo there. So he wasn't a coward, but he did have the underhanded tactics helping him keep the belt.
Yep, he did. I'm just, and that's why I'm just saying, kind of in general, I really would like to see, and and I understand, for the most part, doing it just because you're against like high level opposition. But like for instance, next week when Kenny faces off against um, Matt Sydal, I really hope he doesn't have to have Don Callis run interference for him against fucking Matt Sydal. You know.
Well, they were because I watched Simon Miller. Um, I love him from What Culture. He's just great, and I was watching him, and he started something now called the distraction counter, where he counts how many finishes of matches end because of a distraction or a disqualification or something like that. And it was funny because by February, he started doing it the first of the year, and by the second week in February, um, AEW already had like 20 some distracted finishes. WWE was even higher. I mean, they had like 40 something like that. It's just insane how that's become such a trope of wrestling now.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. All right. So we've also anything more than NXT or AEW?
No, I pretty much that's all I really wanted to talk about.
Okay. So this coming Friday we have coming up ROH's 19th anniversary show. 19 years of ROH, Jeff.
Wow, that's
So you
actually insane.
ready for the card?
Of course.
Dalton Castle versus Josh Woods.
All right, I like that.
Mark Briscoe versus the mercenary Flip Gordon.
That could be fun.
So the setup for Castle versus Woods is that Woods beat Castle in a pure rules match. Castle beat Woods a couple weeks later in a regular match. Now they're having this is basically the rubber match for them. Briscoe versus Flip Gordon. The setup there is that the Briscoes were facing off against um, and you're gonna like this, Jeff. So the Briscoes were facing off against Kenny King and Dragon Lee in a number one contenders match for the ROH tag team titles, right? And the Briscoes are about to win the match. Flip Gordon comes out, interferes, cost them the match, and the number one contenders became Dragon Lee and Kenny King. Right after the match, as the Briscoes are heading back to the arena, um, EC3 comes out and he says, um, "Yeah, this is Ring of Honor, but I don't see much honor around here. In fact, I was just able to pay somebody to cost somebody a match."
Okay, I was gonna say I was literally gonna say what was the whole reasoning for Flip to come out,
Yep,
but
so
now that makes sense.
it's because he's the mercenary and he got paid by EC3 to do it.
Okay, that makes
So
sense now.
that also sets up the semi-main on this show, which is the match we were supposed to get at Final Battle, Jay Briscoe versus EC3 in a grudge match.
Okay, yeah, and that one I'm looking forward to.
Um, and what also happened as a result of that is remember how I said the winners of that match became the number one contenders for the tag titles, right?
Right.
Well, the next week they won the tag titles from um, Lethal and Gresham.
Okay.
So now it's not listed here on the show, but there was supposed to be a tag title match between Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus taking on um, the new champions Dragon Lee and Kenny King. So I wonder if something happened that got that match had the match get scrapped.
Rhett Titus works so much better when he's part of a stable or a tag team.
He does. I'll have to look into that because that match was announced and now it's not on the card. So I wonder if they had a problem with Kenny King getting um, COVID again.
Huh.
I have to look into that more. But we've also got an unsanctioned match from another location, Matt Taven versus Vincent. For weeks they weren't going to be able to have a match against each other. So now they're having an unsanctioned match on this card.
Hopefully that's
Da-
finally the blow off there,
Hopefully,
because
Dak Draper.
that feud's been going on for what, 2 years now?
Yep. Well, with COVID interrupting it for 6 months.
Well, yeah, but
Dak Draper versus Jonathan Gresham for the Pure Championship.
Dak Draper is somebody that I'm actually starting to like a lot. Every time I see him, I enjoy his work. Stunned silence?
No, I do too. I mean, I was just reading. I was just looking at because there's an announcement here about Foundation and Left Faction going all rather for the ROH World Tag Titles, but it's not on the official card list. It's just weird. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, no, Draper. Draper is very talented. He's a 6'7" guy. We faced him against Gresham, who's like what 5'8" or something. So it's going to be a very interesting size battle between the two of them there too. You know.
I wonder if it'll be like I mean, what was it? 2 years ago, we had that 15-minute five-star match with Gresham and ZSJ.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I wonder if they'll be able to pull off something like that because I think Draper, with that size difference, there's a lot of good storytelling there. And Gresham is really one of the more technically sound wrestlers in the world.
Yeah, that's gonna be a blast, I think.
Huh.
All right,
You said
let's
that it's
see.
this Friday?
This Friday, yep, 26th. We've also got on the show. Remember how at Final Battle, Shane Taylor Promotions refused to win the six-man titles by forfeit,
Right.
and they demanded a match for the titles. Well, then they won the titles on ROH TV, and so now they're defending them in a rematch against Mexa Squad
Okay.
on the show. Um, And Taylor also got screwed out of the world title against Roosh, by the way.
Oh.
The next week on the show.
Oh.
So,
Okay. Hmm.
um, Tracy Williams is facing Dragon Lee for the TV title,
Wait,
continuing the
isn't Tracy
continuing.
isn't Tracy Williams in the tag match with Rhett Titus?
He is, but Dragon Lee's also in that match.
Oh, interesting.
So Dragon Lee's defending two titles against Tracy Williams that night.
Interesting.
Um, so that's continuing more, of course, of the Foundation versus La Facciones Ingobernable feud. And then in the main event, continuing on that feud more, Jay Lethal is challenging Bruce for the ROH World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, please, Jay Lethal, do not win that. I mean, I'm sorry. His first run with the belt back in 2014, I truly felt like he was one of the better champions out there, one of the best, best in the world, especially after that TV title run. But I still thought he was good, but his last run with the belt, where he just kind of got it because Dalton Castle was injured, it was just not good, not entertaining, and I just don't want him to win it again.
No, me neither. I think he's terrible as world champion. I think he's a great wrestler all around. Enjoy him as TV champion. I enjoy him as tag team champion. I enjoy him without the belt. I think he's a great wrestler, but I think as world champion, he's just so boring. Um, and The other thing is though that Roosh is starting to turn my stomach watching him in his title matches too though, because he's constantly grabbing that cable and beating people with it and choking people with it, and it's reminding me too much of Minoru Suzuki and NJPW, you know.
Yeah,
So
he's I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of him since his debut. So him as champion is better than PCO,
yeah.
but I don't know that he's the right guy to have held it now for almost 2 years.
Oh, I forgot to tell you that I did mention that GC that I mentioned the setup of BC3 versus Jay Briscoe, right?
Right.
But also, I forgot to tell you that you're going to want to go back and watch that, because EC3 says to Briscoe, "I did you a favor, Jay. Now you're free. Now you're free to not be in a tag team. Now you're free to go after that world title again. You're free to write your own narrative."
Interesting.
Yeah,
Sounds like EC3 is clicking on all cylinders in ROH too.
he is. I mean, he wasn't. He was off for a few weeks on there, but I think that's probably because they were filming the stuff while he was after he tested positive for COVID and that kind
Well,
of
yeah,
thing.
because
But
he ended up having to back out of that match because he had tested positive.
yeah, so you know how when he comes out on ROH it says free EC3. So now he said now you're a free Jay Briscoe.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's got back what he had when he initially was with TNA
Yeah,
that he had in NXT, and then they call him up to the main roster and he floundered for years.
yeah. There's so many storyline possibilities with him in ROH right now too, because he's still got a little bit of a score to settle with Shane Taylor as well. You know,
Oh, yeah.
and then he's he and Roosh are not gonna, and then he's gonna be like, focused on Roosh too. If Roosh, assuming that Roosh holds on to the world title for a while, because his idea is he wants to see is there really honor in Ring of Honor, and Roosh is clearly displaying that there isn't. You
Right.
know, so
Cool.
yeah, I really do like his current character in ROH. I mean, I enjoyed his initial character in Impact, and I thought it, when he became a baby face, it did not work well for him.
No.
But I really do like what he's doing in ROH now.
Well,
So
I loved him in Impact too. I thought that top 1% character was a lot of fun, but you're right, it did not work as a babyface.
exactly, yeah. And to be fair, he was fun in NXT as well. But when he went to the main roster, that was just
It was just, well, I don't even think he appeared. I mean, he had a couple of one-off matches.
yeah, that's pretty much all. Then they pretty much scrapped him, didn't they?
Yeah, in over a year on the main roster, he was only on. There was somebody else too. Like I found out Bo Dallas is still employed by WWE. Bo Dallas has not appeared on TV in 2.5 years,
Wow.
but he's still there. He's still employed there. He's still in catering every single week.
Why?
I don't. Then you cut people that were actually on TV quite a bit. It makes no sense to me.
No, it's weird. I did see that. What's his name? Asked for his release and was refused to. They
Andrade.
refused to release him. Andrade. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they. I was just watching What Culture this morning, and they were talking about how they think the reason why is because Charlotte has been pitching a storyline because she wanted to have a storyline with her real life fiance, and
Right.
they scrapped it. And shortly after they scrapped it was when Andrade asked for his release.
Well, he's not been used to his abilities either.
No, no, his run. I mean, still one of my favorite matches of all time was him and Gargano for that title.
Right.
And since he's been on the main roster, yeah, he's held a couple titles. He's had some hits and misses, but ultimately it's been more misses.
I got to say, him winning the title was one of the most shocking things I've ever seen on NXT. Maybe the most shocking title change I've ever seen on NXT.
Well, yeah,
You know,
because
I,
he was
I,
that
I
party
he,
guy.
yeah, I mean, he was going up against Drew McIntyre, right?
Yep.
And you know, I didn't, and I thought, well, yeah, this is an easy win for Drew. And then we won the title. I was like, what just happened? So
Yeah, he Jinder Mahal'd us.
yeah, he did.
But
Although he's actually talented.
yeah, I mean, he Jinder Mahal'd us, but then he went on to have, some really great matches with that title.
Right.
And he's had some great matches on the main roster too. It's just they've got so many people on that main roster that they can't use any of them properly. And then they put so much time and attention into the top three or four people that everybody else just kind of falls by the wayside. It always
Yeah,
makes me cry a little bit when people go from NXT to the main roster.
I was just about to say that. You know, that's one thing about NXT. When I'm watching every week, like they're paying so much focus to every single member of that roster.
Yeah, they
You
really
know.
do. And I mean, that's one thing I really liked about them when they were only an hour-long show, is that we didn't see the same people on every single week so that everybody could get a little attention.
Right. Right. I think they found a really nice balance now, though.
Yeah, now that they're at a 2-hour show, I mean, of course, it it feels more like, 'cause I don't know if you ever heard that podcast of where Eric Bischoff was talking about storylines and how you have an A, a B, a C, and a D storyline. And you obviously you work on A, and over time, as A is starting to run its course, you're bringing up B and C to those levels, and then bringing in another one down below to start up. Um, and he said that that's like the Sting storyline that he had in the 90s
Hmm.
was his A storyline for years, but underneath he had like the Diamond Dallas Page starting to become a big thing. He had Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero starting to become bigger and bigger and bigger. So,
Right.
while he was focused on Sting, he was bringing along these other storylines that were eventually going to replace the Sting storyline as the top storyline.
Gotcha.
And I feel that NXT does that. I don't feel so much that the other companies do that, but I do feel like NXT really does.
Yeah, I think so too. I really think and I think ROH is doing that a lot right now. Like where they've got an undercurrent going on with everything they're doing. So I really enjoy that.
Well, good. Hopefully they get some momentum here. Um,
And actually, you know, before we go off the air, I also want to say when you're watching um, the anniversary shows, pay very close attention in that 6 man tag title match to Moses.
okay,
Watch what Moses does because I'm not going to say he doesn't do the flippy do stuff that we see big guys do in the year, and I know we kind of wish they didn't do it these days, but
right,
he does what he does do is something that I think probably the closest I've seen doing it recently is Braun Strowman, where he dominates the ring when he's in there, where like he'll block a guy from being able to move in the ring because he just has that kind of size to him and
nice,
and the intensity to him. You
nice.
know, he's really improved over the last year or so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily see every single member of that stable now being a world champion at some point in Ring of Honor. You know,
And that's Shane Taylor Productions.
And Shane Taylor Promotions. Yep.
Okay. Well, cool. Good. I might watch a little Ring of Honor to kind of get caught up. You said there were a few weeks that were pretty good.
Yeah, like I like the same. They had a championship. The 6 man. They had 1 week where I think it was I can't remember the date, or I would tell you for sure, but where one match was that number one contenders for the tag titles, and the next match was the 6 man championship, and then the very next week was their championship edition, which is where the tag titles were on the line, and so was the world title was Shane Taylor, who was voted by the fans as being the top contender for Roosh
Hmm,
to challenge Roosh for the championship. So
interesting.
he'd
Okay.
also, he it didn't hurt that he'd also beaten Kenny King, Jay Lethal, and Jay Briscoe in consecutive matches either, but
Right.
that does not hurt your resume whatsoever.
No, not at all. All right. Well, I mean, I've got nothing else for this week.
No, I'm just really excited for this show coming up. So,
I know.
we did also have the New Japan Cup semifinals and finals the last couple of nights, but I'm not gonna and I'm gonna try to watch those this week. But I kind of want to be able to see the last quarterfinal before I watch the semifinals and final, and it's not out in English yet. So
Well, I'm going to go watch that ZSJ Osprey match.
ZSJ.
No.
All right.
All right, so
Yeah. So
guys,
so nothing else for this week. So next week, guys, we'll talk about New Japan Cup, and we'll talk about this anniversary show.
and of course NXT and AEW because I'm really getting into NXT and I still like to check out AEW here and there. So,
We'll see what kind of time I have to do to watch AEW this week.
right.
So
But you guys, if you're listening, appreciate hit the like button. If subscribe button, ring the notification bell. We do this every single week, except for when one of our computers breaks down or uh, we're moving or things like that. But anyway, hit the like button, subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and if you get a chance, please check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. It's got our entire archives and on there, pretty much everything we've done since we first started doing this back in 2014. So that's all I got.
that's all we got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
Goodbye.